individually, you may do so by standing and joining us, or you may also join us in the Pledge of Allegiance if you so wish to do so as well. So, if you care to join us, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Ramsey?
Here.
Vice Mayor German?
Here.
Commissioner Gorman?
Here.
Commissioner Emery?
Here.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Hood? Absent.
Thank you. All right. So we do have an introduction. This didn't get on this agenda, but we don't want to miss this opportunity to introduce a new member of our team. And so that's in our clerk's office. And if our clerk would do the introduction.
I am super excited here to announce that we have Shelly Stibbis with us here, who is our election coordinator, and she's been with the City of Norton Shores since 2007. She has 16 years of election experience. She's also a City of Muskegon resident, so between now with our office, we have 70 years of election experience, so we are pretty excited with that. So just going to give Shelly an opportunity if she's got anything to say, but we are really, really excited to have her on board.
Just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity, and like Ann said, I've been involved with elections for a long time. I feel like where I came from, that we were pretty innovative, and we are here as well. So I look forward to just joining forces and making it the best team.
Fantastic. Welcome aboard. And looks like you are a little bit restless in retirement, but happy retirement.
Well, thanks.
And welcome and congrats on joining our team. And we're so grateful for the experience and the expertise that you're going to bring to our team and some of the best practices and see how we can continuously improve our fantastic clerk's office. So,
Much, everyone.
thank you. All right. First up in presentations is the home art plan being reported out by our Community and Neighborhood Services Director, Sharonda Carson. Welcome.
Hello, I hope you all are doing well. I am Sharonda Carson. I am the Director of Community and Neighborhood Services, and I wanted to bring to you an introduction or explanation of our home art plan. So the home art plan came to the City of Muskegon by way of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. We were awarded $1.2 million to provide services to those experiencing homelessness and to provide supportive services. These funds must be used to create new programs or services and must be expended by 2030. It also requires the city to engage and encourage public participation. Sorry. All right, so who can we help? We can help homeless as defined in Section 103A, the McKinney-Vento. At-risk homeless as defined in Section 401 -1, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking, supportive services that prevent the family's homelessness, or those with the greatest risk of housing instability. Veterans and families that include a veteran family member that meet one of the preceding criteria. The eligible activities are production or preservation of affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance, supportive services, purchases, and development of non-congregate shelter. So the development of our home art plan required us to do a needs assessment, and in that needs assessment we considered a few things. We looked at the point in time count of 2022, which identified 62 households without children residing in shelters, 9 identified as unsheltered. Between 2018 and 2022, there was an average of 113 sheltered homelessness. We also looked at the community needs assessment, the community survey, which identified homelessness as issues as disabled individuals, those experiencing mental health issues, domestic violence, trafficking victims, youth, and veterans. The MAISD identified 590 unaccompanied youth from infancy to 12th grade between 2021 and 2022 that were experiencing homelessness in the forms of living with family or friends, hotels, or motels. It's also important to note that there may be more youth living in homelessness, but they are afraid to speak up in fear of going into foster care systems or worse. We also received information from Health West, which indicated that they had identified 305 people living in homelessness between February and June 2022. Those experiencing homelessness are also expressed needs with personal and hygiene care. Another aspect that we considered in our building of our plan, was the Bowen's housing assessment, which pointed out a few things. For instance, the lack of housing, safe and appropriate housing, variety of housing types, rental versus own, variety of housing, examples: houses, apartment, duplex, condos, housing that is reasonably priced or that fits all income levels, available housing for current and future residents. Neighborhoods greatly impacted were Angel, Marshfields, McLaughlin, and Nelson. It also pointed out that we have an existing housing stock that is substandard. Most families are cost burdened, spending more than 30% of their income towards rent, and limited available housing for rent and to buy options. So with considering all of that, we identified there were a few major gaps. The one gap is quality affordable housing. Another is resources to assist those with move-in expenses, case management, and increasing access to emergency shelter. So our plan is to designate $147,000 that will go towards administration costs, $72,825 for operating and capacity building, $200,000 for supportive services, and $800,000 for housing. We are seeking to create 1 to 4 unit housing that is considered affordable and meets ADA compliance requirements. The goal would be to target those neighborhoods that were outlined in the Bowen housing assessment, which are Angel, Marshfields, McLaughlin, and Nelson. We will also provide an opportunity for agencies to submit proposals to support their initiatives surrounding homelessness and ensure that This is a collaborative effort to address homelessness in our community. A portion of our budget is reserved to assist Chodo organization, existing or new, with capacity building and operating costs. HUD made available $60,000 of admin dollars to assist with the development and carrying out of this plan, which we have already attributed $50,000 to the creation of a new position with the United Way. It's called a coordinated entry position, and they will serve as the connecting piece to connect those experiencing homelessness with housing. So our citizen participation comment period was from July 17th to August 1st. We held a public hearing on July 27, 2023. We heard from a few community members and a citizen from the public. There are opportunities to engage. It's in person, over the phone, via mail or email. And you can find a copy of our plan on the city's website under Community and Neighborhood Services.
How about now?
Also wanted to let everyone know that you have the ability to connect with us. It's not showing up here on the screen. There you go. So that's our contact information for everyone. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask now.
Commissioners, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Johnson, and thank you, Director Carlson. You mentioned what the plan was and the services that's going to be provided: housing, supportive services, administration. When you talk about supportive services, if I heard you correctly, you talked about a new position that's going to be created. That's part of that supportive services, correct?
Well, no, that was to help us. So HUD released $60,000 to assist us with carrying out the plan, developing the plan, and what have you. And so with that $60,000, we thought it was significant to have a coordinated entry position. And so $50,000 of those dollars went to United Way to create that position.
And that will be in effect for how long? That position.
The position is here to stay. Miranda she started a while back, and she's done some great work so far, and we're very happy that we were able to assist United Way with creating that entry point. Also, HUD outlined in their federal regulations that the importance of the COC involvement in this carrying out of this plan. So.
Okay. And will they be working in contact with our community engagement staff here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So we work together as a partnership.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sharonda, great job.
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud of this work in your office for what I've been able to do. I'm going to congratulate you on the $50,000 for the partnership with United Way, because a coordinated entry system coordinator, say that a lot, is meant to bring together all of the different pieces where any one of our neighbors who are precariously housed or need assistance with housing can walk in and get the services that they need so that they're real and relevant in the time that they need them. So kudos to that. I do have a question about your budget pie. It talked about supportive services, which you were very clear about being case management and or social care systems navigation assistance, and then about housing. One of them was $200,000, the other one was $800,000. Can you just tell me how long of a period that supportive services bucket of money is supposed to last? Or is that dependent upon the agency who applies and is awarded it?
It will be dependent upon the agency that applies and is awarded. The agency will have guidelines that we, of course, build with a timeline because the funds do have to be expended by 2030. So we will ensure that the funds are.
Right. Awesome. So I'm just going to encourage us to make sure that when we're partnering with whatever agency, that there is a living wage being paid to that individual individuals doing that work, because a lot of time in nonprofit organizations, especially those around housing, we also forget that sometimes we cause our employees to be subsidized as well. And so I want to thank you for thinking of that in advance. And then the last point I wanted to make was that you said McKinney-Vento earlier, and not everyone may know what that is. Could you elaborate on what that is, or would you like me to do it?
Go ahead.
All right. So many of our populations and communities here in Muskegon have very specific agencies and organizations that they work with on a federal level. And McKinney-Vento is that federal organization and statewide organization that looks specifically at children as students and helps us to gauge those that need help within our public school systems. Thank you. Great job, Sharonda.
Thank you, Michael.
Commissioners, any other questions? Or thoughts to share at this time? All right. Excellent. Yeah, I do like that you're carrying forward in the emphasis on serving the youth in our community.
Yes.
That are at risk of homelessness and being unhoused and unsheltered. So thank you for your work on that, and this is on our consent agenda as well. So we now got the presentation as a prelude to the action item that's on our consent agenda, and then we'll be moving forward with an RFP for distribution and allocation of these resources out into our community to benefit our residents. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, before we go to the next presentation, I just want to remind folks that if you do wish to give public comment during the public comment period, which we'll be having after we get through our presentations and before we get on with our business of the meeting, there are public comment forms at the back of the room on the table. If you do, please provide your name and home address on there and submit it to our clerk. We will call you up when it is time and give you, provide you 3 minutes to give remarks. So, welcome, Parks and Rec Director Kyle Karczewski. Joining us to provide an update on the Parks and Recreation Master Planning process.
Let's hope we got all the bad technology out right there.
Were you kicking wires?
I unplugged the thing into
Oh, that's what happened.
Yes. Sorry. Troublemaker. Thank you for your grace.
Sorry. Stage fright.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's hope it goes better than that.
Pay her the big bucks.
Yeah.
All right, so been speaking a while about updating the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We've been working for about 4 months. Myself, Public Works team, the Community Engagement team, and new to the team, some recreation coordinators. So we've been working hard on it. And here is the presentation of the update, what we plan on doing, what we want to update, and what we're excited about. So, first slide, we just had a Parks Master Plan completed in 2022. Why are we here? Why are we updating it? It was a very long plan, over 400 pages, got a lot of the dirty work done, a lot of deeds, a lot of legal documents, a lot of historic information that's necessary in a master plan. We received grants off it, a couple of DNR grants, and it was very thorough, and it had a good existing recreation inventory plan, which takes a lot of resources, so we're pleased about that. The concerns we had from the plan centered around community engagement. We had 170 people fill out the survey, and recreation interests were not included in the plan. Two really big components of what the master plan should look like. So what do we plan on updating? The public engagement is going to be completely different this time. It's going to be intentional and equitable. The across the entire city of Muskegon, from east to west. We plan on physically bringing surveys to residents, not just sending out emails or links. We plan on having events, being engaged in internal and external community events. We have quite a few that we're signed up for, and also quite a few we're doing on our own. We will include recreation on it, and we'll also, now that we have a Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, they'll be helping us with forming the engagement to an action plan. So the updated action items, that's a big part of this too. The action items that were set up from the surveys is basically what the 5 years of funding was based off of. As we said before, that was based off of the existing recreation inventory and the feedback that they received from 170 residents. 2022, it identified action items. Those are also included. We're not discarding them. We are keeping them in our survey. But for the 2023 plan, we're going to include to develop the action plan. We're going to include the input of the surveys, along with the representation of all the wards through our through our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to make those long-term plans and guide us with how we're going to spend the ARPA dollars. Also, for the updated action items, what we're going to use is an equity-centered capital improvement plan to assist in the decision-making. That's a national tool. It was recommended from the City of Grand Rapids Parks and Recreation. They use that as well. So parks that are in the survey, there's 28 neighborhood parks, there were 28 and 12 in the 22 plan. The 2023 plan update will have a few less, 20 neighborhood and 9 community. The excluded parks fall into one or more of the categories. They're either maintained space, they are fully funded, they're a developable site, or they're shared with other municipalities, or we do not have sole responsibility to maintain the park. So to point out a few of those, there were several gardens on the previous plan. There were boat ramps, and there were a couple status changes. For instance, the Byler Tot Lot. And also, a big part of it was developable sites that are going to become developable, that we are not investing heavily in those sites. So what you're looking at is what the current survey is. It's not live, but this is what we have identified. So the engagement plan. It's going to be a lot more than just digital, but Facebook, Instagram, email, got us to the 170 last time, so we'll include that. We're also going to have public announcements, and since the start of the, I guess kind of give the credit to Deborah, since the start of the heavy engagement, we've seen an average of 200,000 engagements since March of 23, every single month, and actually we had over 600,000 one month. So it has improved. So we're going to piggyback off that and improve on the print side. We're going to have yard signs in parks. As you can see, that little flyer right in the middle with QR codes. So people who are in parks, really everywhere we're at, people are going to have access to scanning that QR code and doing it themselves. We're going to have magnets for cars, banners, flyers, basically going to put it everywhere we can. Like we said, use a QR code. That's a really easy way for people to be able to do it. If you're out walking your dog at the dog park, you'll see a sign. If you're out watching a game at Marsh Park, you'll see the sign. If you're at parties in the park, you'll see the sign. So that's just a couple of the places it'll be. We're partnering with a lot of different organizations for these events, such as the public safety pop-up parties. We'll have a booth at those. Discuss in commission meetings. There's youth football organizations. They're going to allow us to put the median signs out where they have the games at. Touch the trucks. Pretty much every internal event within the 8 weeks of engagement we'll be at. Also, partnering with the Muskegon Public Schools. We'll be at the Latino Festival. And then we're also going to have about 10 Parks and Recreation events that are solely, the sole purpose is to get people engaged with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So pretty much like our own pop-up parties. Those are going to look pretty fun. It's going to be pizza, music, bounce houses, activities for kids. And how we decided where to have those at was we looked at, especially one of the questions from the 2022 survey. So every park that had less than a 10% response rate, we feel that we need to go to those parks and actually throw a small event, throw a small party in the park, small pop-up party. Clear Shepherd should be circled. Aside from that, that's where we will be going into, because as you can see, our efforts do bring good results from a handful of parks, but not all of them. So, for instance, Amot had 2 people say that they go to that park, and Bucoma had 3. And so we formed all these action items off of the 3 people who gave feedback to Bucoma. And we think Bucoma deserves more than just what 3 people feel about it. So we plan on going to the parks and having a nice party. So the timeline looks like 8 weeks of survey, hopefully starting Friday, from August 11th to October 6th. We believe the biggest resource is warm weather for us. Emailing links, as we've seen, can only go so far, but being at events, especially events like the Latino Festival, or the youth sports events that go on the east side. We think being at events like that have a huge impact. So we'd like to start it as soon as possible. As you can feel it already, there's a little fall in the air today even. So we really want to get ahead of this. And like I said, I think being outside having events is the most important aspect of the engagement. After the engagement, we plan on analyzing the survey and develop a new action plan. Take all the survey results, work with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to determine what needs to be done and when. We'd like to have a recommended updated master plan no later than February 2024, and then begin the park updates in spring 24. As you can see there with the image, that is the timeline of the funding. Really, since, as we all know, our fiscal year ends June 30th, there is a little bit of a, we do need to get going on getting the engagement started, getting those funds spent on broad efforts to have it to really hit the timeline. So one of the many tools will be our Zen City page. So this is a quick summary of it. We'll have our timeline for everyone. We think it's an easily digestible summary right here that everyone can understand. Supporting documents. From here, we also have a survey. Would you guys like to embark on a sample survey with me?
Sure.
We'll do so. All right.
Do it.
So just so you're aware, one aspect I really like of this is if you are not sure what neighborhood you are in, you can drop a pin to where you live.
Nice.
You're aging yourself.
Yeah, I'm just trying. We're going to delete
well
it.
preserved.
This is going to be a hard
Useful
data here.
secrets.
Just wanted to show you what one page would look like. So for Bucoma, we do include some pictures, and then we have some supporting, documents to show what that park. Well, that was a temporary fix. But yeah, so we do have existing
Visual aids.
visual aids, which it's important to show especially when talking about what needs to get done at the park. So it's this master plan. When I first started it, I thought when I first interviewed, there was snow on the ground. I thought I'd be developing and redesigning all these parks. But more importantly, we have a duty to maintain and rehab them. And they severely need that. So we are showing all the operational inefficiencies that we have at our parks, and putting them into pictures, and then letting people rank what they find more important. Add amenities to the park, what would they be?
Oh, nice.
Also fill in. Then select your top 3 recreation opportunities you'd like to see. You come on. Asses at this park you no longer want to see. So, and there's also, I believe, one more page. And so we do just have some, that was because I clicked those 2. So there's the option also to tell us what you want where in the city. So, thoughts and feedback.
Fantastic. I'm loving so much of this.
Great.
I'm thrilled that we have revived our park and recreation department, and that we're taking these steps. And I was a champion of doing a new master plan. Yes, we had one from last year, but that concerted on the ground engagement with our residents and our park users, and doing so across our city and with intentionality is so important. So I'm really happy to see how that's been incorporated and reflected in this plan going forward. And then, as you mentioned before, that equity-centered approach to the build-out of our parks and recreation system, that's so incredibly important as well. So I'm really happy with this. I might have some additional feedback to, like questions or whatnot, because this is the first I've seen this presentation.
Yeah.
But nice work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to co-sign all of that and just say kudos to you and the team, Kyle. Great job. This looks amazing. I'm very excited to hear you say things like, we know that social media is not enough. We're going to do things out in person. Before you showed us that wonderful interactive website where you could drop your pin, I literally wrote the note that says, when you go to public places, take a map. Because there is a park that's down the street from me that I never knew what it was called. So you could have said, do you want this park? And I'd be like, I don't know what that is. So great job there.
Yeah.
But again, something visual for in person would probably really help some people. Other than that, just
Definitely.
great job. Just great job.
Thank you.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, great job. I like the presentation. I just want to know also, will the presentation be available for the commission as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I like the Senate equity-centered initiative that you have there, because you look at the parks and what they were back 20 years ago up to now. Yes, definitely needed to revitalize those parks. And you talked about some of the infrastructure like the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. Is that something that you see in the near future, or doing this plan to have Wi-Fi accessible for those parks or all parks?
We do have hotspots that will be taken out with us when we're doing these. It is that brings a good question. If it just the fact is it's so expensive to install Wi-Fi somewhere that it's only something we'll do if it's identified, and I'm anxious to do it. But it's a lot of money to put into just a couple week survey. So we hope that the opportunities when we are out at parks with a hotspot will allow people at that time.
They have that access. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And speaking of Wi-Fi, I know I personally would love to see us get Wi-Fi in every single park across our city. But we know that it is expensive, and we have a host of needs and wants across our park system. So I think it is. At first I was like, well, why are we including that question? Why don't we just say we're going to do Wi-Fi across our system eventually? But I think it is important to understand what parks and what areas people are calling for that most. And that can then give us guidance as where we first, maybe roll out Wi-Fi throughout our park system. But I'm just one of one voice and one of 7 on this commission. But I for one, certainly would like to see us build out a Wi-Fi.
Yeah, if it was just a
across our
one-time
park system.
feed, no problem. But the fact that you're paying it every month, every year,
Oh, yeah.
we really want to know where people want it at so we can put it there.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes, great job. I just want to mention on the survey, I think that last question that said your top 3 wishes for a park, you could give 5 responses instead of just 3. That's all.
Yeah, it was 3. We changed it to 5
Okay.
options. We haven't changed the verbiage.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that might have been little last.
No, just
Yeah,
before we go
second.
live.
The
so we're
survey's
not,
still in
looking at
progress.
data that's-
Absolutely, yeah. We're thinking Friday for launch date, so we're definitely gonna, especially today being the presentation, we did give a harder look into, what is the perfect way to do this, and had a couple last minute requests of the
No,
community
I love
engagement team.
how smart it is based on what you responded. Then not just like, oh, dog park would be nice. Like, which park would you want a dog park
Yeah,
in?
of course, because you can put a dog. You can really put a dog park anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Great job. Thank
That's,
you.
that's very nice. Speaking of that component of the survey, as well as going back to Wi-Fi, I did notice Wi-Fi and free Wi-Fi were listed as 2 different options.
Okay.
For one of the answers, so just
yeah,
somebody else to
we don't want
clean
people
up.
coming
That's
after
getting the
paying
weeds.
up charge.
But city manager, Mr. Manager, you had something to?
Yeah. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that Dan and Kyle and Matt and all the rec folks have really done. Dan and Matt are back there too, and this has been an effort that everybody's been working on. And Kyle's done a great job of moving this forward along with Deborah and Pete to help this go forward. Kyle, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of the 3 prongs or the 3 factors that we're going to use to determine where investments are going to happen going forward. Obviously, the survey is one part. You want to talk a little bit about the equity inventory and then the other aspects as well?
Yeah. So the equity inventory, what that does is, it's really just hard data. It takes into account the demographics of the community, the crime rate, and really importantly, the population density of the community. It gives them a points ranking as well as park characteristics. So the lifespan of the parks, basically, we're not going to be able to neglect McRae. Parks on the east side, dense area, very old playground. It's going to make it so that regardless of input, I'm going to have a hard time moving forward keeping those high scores high. So it's not essentially going to be the end all. It's one of many tools we're using. I like to say that, as I've heard other people say, it keeps the Parks and Recreation Director accountable, so that the next master plan, the equity index looks different. Doesn't look the same. As that, the survey is going to be a huge factor in the decision making. That's why we're doing it. We hope to get. I don't even want to say the number that I want to get because then we have to it. But I'm hoping for a pretty big number there. And then a combination of just the expert opinion and knowledge of the staff incorporated with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, helping us with every ward deciding making those hard decisions for what is deemed going to be replaced or rehabbed or updated.
Excellent. Speaking of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, we had anticipated that we were going to be having a Community Relations Committee meeting this evening. Typically, we have it after our work session, but we have a special work session / general session this evening, so we're not going to have a CRC meeting this evening. So we will not be considering appointments to that committee at this time, but that will be at our next Community Relations Committee meeting, which will be after our first work session, or our work session in September.
Yes.
So I think it's September 11th.
Yes.
I believe that is.
And also,
CRC chair.
the park and recreation applications through the talent bank will remain open until August 31. So if you're a resident of the city of Muskegon and you're interested in getting involved, please get in there and fill out a talent bank application. You can also step into the city clerk's office during normal office hours and get a paper application should you need help with that. And there's also a slew of other things that you can do to get engaged if Parks and Rec doesn't interest you. So please go ahead and fill an application out.
Absolutely. And then, like our city manager said, great work to the whole team. Kudos to everybody involved with this process. Thank you to Kyle. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Deborah. Thanks to everybody that has been part of this process thus far. Deborah, I'm calling you out now, but with regard to our newsletter, so we're working on the newsletter. The e-newsletter went live, but we're going to be doing a print newsletter that's being mailed out, I believe mailed out to everybody, all of our residents. Is that first physical newsletter that's going to be going out within this window so that we can communicate this planning process and alert our residents to ways that they can engage?
Our goal is to have our first print e-newsletter go out in the early parts of October. So as long as everything stays on schedule, I think it'll be in there.
Okay. So we may need to just move that window for the end of the planning, engagement, and data collection process. We might need to move that window a little bit later into October to ensure that we're capturing that feedback as
Yeah,
well.
no problem.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts, commissioners? No? All right. Well, thanks so much.
All right, yeah, thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Good claps at Parks and Recreation. I love it. All right, next up we have Lakeside Business Improvement District Special Assessment, and we have our Dave Alexander reporting out on this. Welcome.
Thank you. Works. Dave Alexander, Community Engagement Specialist. I'm here on behalf of the Lakeside Business Improvement District to make a little presentation to you, and also standing in for Contessa Alexander, who is a staff liaison to the Lakeside bid, and she is out of town on a Brownfield conference. So we will carry on and give the presentation that she would have been given. This is, again, on the behalf of the district board, which is a group that you have appointed. And they have had a business improvement district special assessment for 3 years. They are before you here tonight to give you information on a additional 3 years. I go by where I live to where I work, this Lakeside district, probably 4 or 5 times a day, if not more. And it has been an incredible, uplifting progress that we have seen in the district. Mark Florman, who will be speaking to you for at the end here if you have any questions, is our bid chair, but more importantly for us who are working with him, he is the Lakeside Center owner, and you've seen a great upgrade of that center here in the last 6 months. We have brought in Stogie's Cigar Shop. 490 Bakery is coming into Mark's location. Dockside Donut, Tiny Digs Lakeshore, Rolling Stone Pizza, Greek Shore Muskegon, again into Mark's facility, and Mom's, Margie's Outstanding Meats and Snacks, which came from downtown and is a implant from our chalets, have all gone in the last 6 months. They have joined from Robinson on Lakeshore Drive, which is Washerman's Flowers, all the way to the west, and out to Clifford, Frosty Cove, a lakeside district that has dozens of dynamic businesses that have been there short time or a long time. And they have also been the home of our Lake Express docks for the Lake Express ferry service, and also the Safe Harbor Great Lakes Marina. So it's a very key element to where we're at. We had some numbers pulled from Placer, and in the 3 months of June, July, August, the last couple of years, on average, there's been 65,000 visitors into the district. Just to put that number into perspective, we did the same poll on the Western Avenue corridor, and that was 757,000 for those 3 summer months. That's about 22%, which I think is a very impressive showing for a small business district in our community. The Lakeside District Association really has carried the ball on this, and I see some of my Lakeside friends here. And they've done an outstanding job of promoting and moving that district forward. Louise Hobson is, Mark Kites Gallery has done yeoman's work on that. And it's probably in the last 10 or 15 years I've been talking to her about the importance of the Lakeside District as a connector between downtown and the beach. And I think our Imagine Muskegon Lake plan has shown the importance of this area. They have always wanted, though, downtown services. And that's something that they really didn't understand why downtown was getting such an attention and Lakeside was not. Well, it was pay to play, quite truthfully. There was a business improvement district that our city manager put together before he left the downtown management on his career, and that bid has provided the services and the dynamics that you see both in marketing, promotion, landscaping, snow removal. They got that, and so they approached you as a commission back in 2020 to put a business improvement district in the Lakeside, and that was instituted from 2021 to 2023. It's a special assessment, so each of the commercial districts property owners are paying, as they do downtown, on a per square foot basis for the services that they are receiving on an annual basis, and that goes on their property taxes. In the last 3 years, it has raised $24,944 a year to provide snow removal services, also to provide that on the sidewalks as we do downtown, Christmas decorations, holiday tree lighting, landscaping, maintenance, and helping out in events and advertising and promotion of the district here in the community. They've also received other funds through former city manager and the DPW director. $35,000 of the Lakeshore Drive construction settlement went to this organization, the bid, and it has been supplanting what they're able to do in the district. Also, the city has agreed to pay 14% of the snow removal because 14% of the frontage of those sidewalks are city parks or city-owned properties. So that has gone to about $3,800 a year annually. The CIA was established. You did that a year later, and that's the Corridor Improvement Authority. And that, like the Downtown Development Authority, collects money from taxes that are going to be paid anyway, captures the city and the county taxes and puts them specially to the district as a DDA does. And the CIA, through the first 4 years, we estimate will generate about $48,000. So that's why we come to you now, is that the bid is able to carry us through until the CIA is able to take on, as the DDA is doing downtown, full responsibility for services and promotions. So the bid board has unanimously approved their recommendation to you, a special assessment for the years 24 through 26, and that would be the 3-year extension. It would be of the same district, the same property, that would be specially assessed. And as I said, this was unanimously approved as a recommendation. The special assessment rates for the next 3 years have been reduced 20%. We were able to do that because the CIA, the Corridor Improvement Authority, has generated more monies than we really thought might be there. And I'm thinking what we are proposing or suggesting right now is maybe a conservative view of what the developments will generate as we go forward with the property values increasing in the district. So the special assessment rates, though, would be for Class A properties would be 4 cents per square foot, and that's capped at $1,600. And then the properties under Class B, and there are only 3 parcels, would be half of that at 2 cents, and again capped at $1,600. Class A are all the commercial properties that we have discussed just in some of the businesses that I named earlier. The Class B properties are utilities and automotive, and they are being, as they have been downtown traditionally, historically, assessed at a lower rate because they don't benefit to the hospitality, commercial, retail, business nature of what a downtown or a business district like Lakeside is able to provide, but they still are there providing or getting services such as snow removal and the like. So that is where we've been in the past. So why are we doing this? Because we are, again, transitioning from the bid to the CIA and the bid board's recommendation to you is that this is the last renewal that they would be supportive of at this point. I think the numbers show that going forward, after 2016, 2026 and 2027 beyond, that the CIA will be able to provide the amount of resources needed to provide the quality of services that the businesses, obviously by that time, will be expecting. With that, you will be having the packet that is beyond this PowerPoint that's in your agenda packet that's online. It shows all of the details that will be presented in a public hearing coming up on August 22nd. And all people who are assessed or who are part of that district or have a stake in that district are able to come and discuss that. The status quo on the budget is not changing from what we did the last 3 years. There is that reduction of 20% on the rate, and that public hearing after that, you'll be asked to approve the district plan, and the rates. We will then come back 30 days later in the second meeting in September 26th, and there will be a second public hearing under the law. We will be asking you then to, if approved the first time, to approve the tax rolls and specifically sign off on that. And then they would be sent to our treasurer and the city assessor and placed on the first winter tax bill coming out in the end of this year, and it is due next February. So in there is what you would see as the proposed assessments at the 4 cent and 2 cent levels. That's part of the packet. You've got also a letter from the assessor's office, which under our contract is from the county's equalization bureau. And they are certifying that there is a benefit, and their analysis shows that this is fair and equitable for those that are being assessed. There's a map within that, and then the verbiage as to what the district's all about, what the proposed budget is, and then also where we are at on specific properties, and then the fact that we had the votes and they were unanimous on all accounts. With that, I would like to have Mark step up for a second as the chair, if he has anything to add.
I really have nothing to add. He did a good job. The district, the biggest benefit from the district so far is the snow removal from basically the fire department to Water's Edge?
Water's Edge.
Yeah, I think Water's Edge Fitness. And it makes it walkable in the wintertime, which we haven't had prior to this. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Excellent. Well, one comes to mind right now when you mentioned the snow removal going to Water's Edge. I do believe I've heard a red indication that Tiki Boys is interested in operating year-round going forward and operating this winter. So if that's the case, do we have the flexibility to extend?
I'm sure that probably wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
We're
Excellent.
working with Barry Gezzi as the contractor on that. We have a 3-year contract we put out for proposals, and he has 1 more year, and then the bid board will have to, in the next go-round, as they start up their next winter under the renewal, if you approve it, would then take a look at redoing that in terms of looking for, sure that there's money in the budget for that easily.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions, thoughts? As we proceed, this will be coming back to us as we implement the formal steps to renew this assessment and spread the roles for the assessment. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you, Mark.
No problem.
Not only for your volunteering to chair this board, but your ongoing commitment to Lakeside and its development. That's much appreciated. And thank you, Dave, for your work on this as well. Bringing this forward. You were instrumental in getting this bid.
I think this is
off the
my
ground.
6th bid that I've had before you guys before, in terms of what we've done at Lakeside in the times that we've renewed them downtown, and they've been very beneficial to our business district improvements.
And Contessa has done a good job taking over for Dave. She's done a real
Fantastic. Happy to hear that.
Good transition.
Yep,
And then
good transition.
Also, just want to say thanks to Shirley Green and to Louise Hobson for their work with the Lakeside District Association. You know, that the work that they've done over several years of promoting and helping to coordinate and collaborate and get Lakeside developed. And now we're taking that forward with the Business Improvement District and with the Corridor Improvement Authority, so that we can show even more love and support to Lakeside. And it's great to see the number of businesses that have come online in Lakeside just in this past year. Quite a few of them popping
More to
up,
come,
and
I'm
that's
sure.
awesome. Yeah,
Don't
that's
forget,
really
don't
exciting.
forget Shirley's sister too. She's
Yes,
she's our
Shirley
flower
is
garden.
I would say that as you take a look at your master plan, we address other districts outside the downtown Lakeside, be it Midtown. This is a model that can work in other places, and I know that I'm working with DPW and engagement team on Apple Avenue, and this is a good way that we can then assist in terms of providing more amenities and services and assisting those businesses and corridors outside of our downtown or Lakeside to flourish and get those kinds of quality services that brings in development and new business.
Absolutely, that's fantastic to hear, and aligns very well with the Commission's goals of giving more attention and support to commercial areas outside of our core downtown and now Lakeside. What else we can do in other areas of our city? So that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anything pop up, Commissioner? I see your red pen.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I was going to close out
Okay.
something that you said, and now I don't have to.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. This brings us to public comment on agenda items. I do have a few forms here. Members of the commission, not calling just yet. Members of the audience, not members of the commission. Members of the audience, if you wish to give public comment, I've received a few forms. If you wish to give public comment, there are comment forms in the back of the room on the table. Please complete that, provide your name and home address, and get that to the clerk. And then when I call upon you, you'll have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks. First up, sorry, sir, it's not you.
And I understand it. I have a gig to play on the Aqua Star.
Oh, yours is very time sensitive.
Please
All right.
have your indulgence.
Then I will call you up so you can make your next gig. Mr. Portinga joining us from the city of North Muskegon.
And whoever's place I took, forgive me, and I apologize. I have 3 minutes, so I'm going to read my statement. I'm Roy Portinga, chair of the board that oversees Muskegon Retirement Apartments, also known as Jefferson Towers, your neighbor 2 blocks over. Jefferson Towers has been an anchor in our neighborhood since 1969. We provide low-cost, affordable housing to low-income seniors. We have 149 units. So when you think about Jefferson Towers, think about a 149-unit neighborhood. Since '69, we have been putting a dent in the affordable housing crisis that besets our city right now. Jefferson Towers has never received anything from the city except the First Place Beautification Business Award that we received just a couple of years ago. And it speaks well to the fact that Jefferson Towers is a well-run complex despite operating on a razor-thin budget. And our energy costs are killing us. Our windows are original. They let in wind, rain, simply difficult for our seniors, heck, anyone to operate. And we need new windows. We applied for an ARPA grant to replace our windows, and we're on the bubble, but no cigar. As a lawyer, I read the ARPA final rule regulations cover to cover, and Jefferson Towers nails the requirements. Page 17 states that the Treasury presumes senior citizens were impacted by the pandemic. Second, our project nicely fits within the home repair, home weatherization, increased utility cost categories. Third, we have objective evidence of the impact of the pandemic. 2019, we got a quote for new windows, $256,000. We couldn't afford it then. We're putting money aside for it, etc. Had to get a new quote in September of 22. $468,000, over $211,000 increase in 3 years because of the pandemic. Bottom line, if you approve money for Jefferson Towers, you produce a triple impact. First, you clearly fulfill the ARPA requirements and don't have to worry about the feds looking over your shoulder as to whether you're giving money to a valid project. Second, you help senior citizens operate Windows. And third, you help Jefferson Towers lower its energy costs so as to continue to be able to put a dent in the affordable housing issue here in the city. We're hurting. We need this money. Lastly, Commissioner Ramsey doesn't have to worry about if you only fund half of it, will it get completed? We can do half of the windows. That's 74 units of people getting benefit, and it helps put a great dent in our energy costs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Enjoy your gig and enjoy the cruise.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
And again, thank you for letting me speak.
Next up, we have Virginia Taylor joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm also going to read mine, so I stay on task. So I'm here on behalf of the Nelson Neighborhood Improvement Association. And as we all know, the past couple of years have been marked by some unprecedented challenges brought about by the pandemic. Our neighborhood has come together in some inspiring ways to support one another. And today I'm here to request your support for our community garden enhancements, which also align perfectly with the city's values of unity, resilience, and community enhancement. The pandemic has underscored the importance of spaces where neighbors can come together safely and where they can connect with nature and cultivate not just vegetables, but a sense of belonging and well-being. Community gardens have been a source of nourishment and solace for residents, providing fresh produce and a sense of normalcy during the times when there's a lot of uncertainty. We've had a space for socially distanced interactions, offering a lifeline to people who have felt isolated. We had some people that have come in that have not been out of their house for 2 years, but still feel safe in this garden. The proposed enhancements to the gardens would not only improve the aesthetics, but also our capacity to serve neighbors. By supporting this ARPA request, you'll be contributing to the recovery and revitalization of our neighborhood, and the improvements would not just be physical, they would signify a commitment to the overall health and well-being of our residents. The gardens are a testament to our resilience and our capacity to adapt and our dedication to better our neighborhood. So some of the things is our community gardens are not just a project, but it's a testament of a power of grassroots efforts to build a resilient community. Our community gardens are more than just the plots where we plant seeds. They're the heart of our neighborhood where people from all walks of life come together to nurture not only the soil, but the friendships and the connections. The pandemic brought isolation and uncertainty, but our gardens brought a sense of normalcy. So I want to highlight that as a gardener myself, I've seen the transformative impact of those gardens. 2 years ago, I had a major health issue that left me in a hospital bed, unable to walk and use my arms. And just through perseverance in digging in the dirt and being active and healthy, it's helped me and my own healing, and I've seen the same story over and over with a lot of the gardeners. It's a haven for mental health. The enhancements matter because we're going to make this space more inviting and accessible, especially for people with mobility challenges. So it's a place where families can come, that we're going to be able to have moms and dads come with wheelchairs, people from Jefferson Towers and in Nelson Place and the surrounding areas that are in wheelchairs and on walkers. They'll be able to enjoy the garden and garden there because there'll be smooth pathways and raised beds. Also, it's going to provide an aesthetic transformation. So the beautiful surroundings can have a positive impact on mental health. And so thank you again for considering our garden application.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, I don't think she's here anymore unless she's in the hallway, but Sarah De La Rosa joining us from the Oakview neighborhood. I believe she had to leave. Let's call one more time for Sarah De La Rosa. I don't think she's in the hallway. All right, so before we go to the phones, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment on an agenda item? There'll be another public comment period at the end on any general topics. Anyone? Yes. Miss Green, joining us from the Lakeside neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to give your remarks on an agenda item.
Matt's presentation of new buildings in the parks, how are they going to maintain those buildings? When we had new bathrooms put in at Cyphers Park many years ago, it didn't last very long. The kids came in, destroyed the inside, and they ended up putting porta-johns in. How are they going to keep these safe and clean without kids destroying it?
Excellent questions. So now's not the time for Q&A, but your question is registered. But I'll also encourage you, when we are doing the community engagement process for the updating to our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, that'd be a great time to convey your concerns and ask those questions of our staff at that time as well. But thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time on an agenda item? Yes, Mr. Gregerson, joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. Yeah, that's still helpful. If you want to give the sheet to the clerk, that'd still be helpful for our records. But you have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks, and this is on an agenda item, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's on the money that's we're looking for the grant to improve the gardens. Then I want to reiterate everything that Virginia said. I agree with it completely. I just want to make a couple more comments about. I live on the street. I live 3 houses down from the garden. I actually garden in the garden. The people who work in that garden have poured heart and soul into it to do something good for the people in the town. I'm a person who's very aesthetically oriented, and the garden was built by really good, well-meaning people who didn't believe in a square or a level, and really had no building skills whatsoever. So it's pretty haphazard. It's very difficult to walk through the garden because topsoil or mulch or things have been dropped off in there, and from year to year, and not, if it wasn't used, it was just left. So it's quite it's a bit of an obstacle course to walk through it. I'm 74. I'm concerned every time I walk through there if I'm going to make it from one end to the other. So it needs improvement. I think it's kind of an eyesore right now, and it's an eyesore that's on Muskegon Avenue. And to me, everybody that comes to Muskegon drives down that street, and I would like to see it look a lot better than it does. That's all I need to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gregerson. Appreciate
you
you joining us this evening. Last call for public comment on agenda items from the audience. Yes, Ms. Maria. Joining us from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll get that to you. I didn't know I was going to be speaking today. So, wanted to speak in regards to the ARPA grant that Jackson Hill put in for. So, we sent an email back this morning to speak to that. Although we are very appreciative of the $60,000, it's really insufficient to what it is that the community needs. So, many of the people within our community, they, for whatever reason, they don't necessarily want to have the $10,000 lien put on their houses and have that obligation for 10 years. Some of the programs that they want, some of the things that they need for their houses fall outside the scope of that particular program. $60,000, although it will do something, it won't do enough. Our community members, they are presented with a lot of different barriers to receiving access, whether it has anything to do with credit history or anything like that. It's a lot of things that prevent them from being able to receive the access that they need to other funding resources. The ARPA grant monies were given to communities and given such a broad spectrum of uses because it's supposed to be able to provide direct aid to the people within these underserved communities. And many of the projects, although very worthy, This is one of a few of them that directly service individuals directly within the community that needs it. So again, we appreciate the 60, but the $250,000 is what we really need to be able to move this project further. You all, I'm assuming everybody got the email, so I'm not going to go ahead and reread it to anybody. But if you have any questions for us, we're definitely open to answer those questions in terms of partnering with the city. We're definitely open to that. Many of our residents, to be able to get some of these services, they'll have to have permits. So some of those permits should probably be waived. Those fees for those permits, so that they can have a greater access to that money as well. So we're definitely willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that we're able to get the money into the hands of the people who need it the most. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mari. Appreciate you joining us this evening. All right, so we're gonna. I thought I saw a hand up. So we're going to be going to the phones. If you are at home watching on live stream or on Public Access Channel 96 and you wish to give public comment via the phone, you're welcome to do so right now. When you call in, though, please mute however you're watching and listening to this meeting, and then provide your name and your, well, not address because that's going to be public, but your name and, your city, your neighborhood would be welcome. And then which agenda item you're calling on. So we'll give that a moment for people to call in. There's no one in the queue right now, Madam Clerk?
No, there is not.
Okay, so we'll give that just another moment, see if anyone phones in with their public comment. Looks like we have no phone-in comments at this time. Then we will proceed with the general business portion of our meeting. First up, we have the consent agenda. One item before we get into this, one item has been removed. You want to speak on that, Mr. Manager? Which item has been removed?
Yeah, we're removing item 7B, updated property maintenance code. The staff just wanted to have a little bit more time to have a more in-depth discussion with the commission before we ask for the update. So that'll be coming at a future meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So, Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda as presented. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration and vote? Commissioner Ramsey.
Item 7E. And that's all for me.
Okay. Any other items, Commissioners? No. Well, then I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda with 7B having been removed by staff for future consideration and 7E removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration tonight.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramsey, item 7E, legal representation for tax appeals for property tax classification for marijuana operations.
Yes, I move to approve the City of Muskegon seeking to reach an agreement with Hallahan and Associates PC for marijuana tax appeals at the State Commission and Michigan Tax Tribunal.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair. Director Grant, welcome.
Hello, how you doing this evening? I just wanted to, there's been a couple of appeals going throughout the state with the marijuana industry. They're taking things to the tax tribunal and to the state of Michigan's tax commission to appeal commercial personal property taxes. They want to be classified as agricultural, And with that benefit, they would not have to pay personal property taxes on those parcels. So that could, I pulled up a couple of parcels. One parcel by itself would lose not just the city, but the whole, like the county and the schools will lose $31,000 just for one parcel. So that's a serious impact throughout the city, and if they win that, we won't be collecting taxes on those amounts. So that's why we're selecting to fight this. It's a statewide appeal, so we got a legal representative that's going to fight it throughout the state.
Thank you, Director Grant. Is that assessment that you were talking about? Is that the one that's about $3 million? That there was one that I saw with a state equalized value of about $3 million. That was the largest of them. So I just trying to
the
get
one that I'm
context.
looking at, it was taxable value of $638,000. That's I hope I pulled the right one up. I'm sorry. Yes, J&J Partners.
JSJ. That's the $3 million one, not the $638,000.
Okay, I pulled. It's two of them. It's two parcels.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
the one that I have in front of me. Is
At least on the property viewer, but the property viewer can be wrong.
Yes.
The Muskegon County property viewer, because that one had indicated their state equalized value was approximately like $3 million or so.
Yes.
But that site has been.
They have several.
wrong.
They have several parcels. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions. So you just said that we are being recommended these attorneys through our legal services, which is wonderful, because they are handling the statewide appeal.
Well, this appeal is statewide, but they have certain parcels in the city that they're representing for us.
Gotcha. Okay, for a hot second, I thought we were buying into like a community lawyer kind of a plan thing. So then my question is, the concern that I have about this is that if we look at $215 for an hourly rate of attorney and $100 for law clerks and assessments, how many attorneys, how many law clerks and assistants, not assessments, apologies, and for how long? Because there is...
Yeah, I do not know, because it is appeal, and like you said, we could talk to our city attorney on how billing hours work. I'm not a lawyer.
Turns out neither am I, so it's okay.
No, the discussion that Mr. Grant and I had was, it seemed that it is more cost effective with a number of municipalities hiring a single firm than a
Yes.
number of firms all duplicating the same thing. The second part was, though, these are not combined cases. Our cases will stand alone. And so at some point in time, if we are unsuccessful at an early stage and the decision is we're not going to continue it, that would be a discussion that Mr. Grant would have with council, or we would have with council. The discussion that the mayor and I had was, do you want to put a cap on this? That's an alternative way to set that sort of now that we're looking at, this hourly rate not to exceed X.
Right. So, thank you, Mr. Grant.
Yes.
You and I are both very aware of my experience with finance, and that does not exist. So my question is, would it behoove us for you to go back to the drawing board and talk to the rest of staff and experts and put a cap on here? Because I never want our what would be our benefit to outweigh what we're paying. If we end up losing all these cases and it costs us so much money in both the taxes and then in the legal fees, that to me doesn't sound like a smart financial decision.
Right.
Not that I've ever been known to make one. So, but I don't think that I could support something like this with, oh, sorry, Eric, excuse me. I don't think I could support something like this without a cap on it. That was decided by, people who should decide that sort of thing.
Well, we do, as this body, have the discretion to put a cap on it. In the event that it costs more than that, they have to come back to us and ask for more money. So we can put a cap on it up front.
Mr. Mayor,
and get
with
it
all due
started.
respect, I wouldn't even know where to start with that cap. So if someone would like to advise me, I could include that.
I ballparked it at the initial stage, probably a $5,000 to $10,000.
Oh, yeah, easy. So, yeah, $10,000.
I could talk to them and tell them if it goes more than $10,000, we need to bring it back in front of the commission.
Great. So then I would like to amend my motion.
For a cost not to exceed $10,000.
Yeah. So everything I said before, the city of Muskegon is. When submit a motion to approve the city of Muskegon to seek and reach an agreement with Howland and Associates PC for marijuana tax appeals at the State Commission and Michigan Tax Tribunal not to exceed $10,000.
Support.
All right. We have the initial motion maker amended their motion, and it was that amendment was supported by the supporting motion maker.
Yeah.
All right. So, commissioners, now you understand the existing motion on the floor. Any questions about that? Any questions for staff on this motion? No. Vice Mayor German, did you have something to ask her?
Well, not just on the motion, but the parcels that Director Grant were talking about. Nothing is affected in the city right now. Is it?
Pardon me?
Any parcels that's being affected right now?
Yes,
in
and this, what I forwarded to you guys, it shows, I don't know if it shows the parcels on there, but it does have the parcels listed on the tax appeals. And one I'm looking at,
Grow operations within the primary district off of Laketon.
Okay, those.
Yeah.
I think we have two of them. I think we have two separate appeals.
And speaking with legal counsel, we have an obligation to defend when it goes beyond the board of review and it goes to the state tax commission. We have an obligation to defend that position of the county assessor who we contract with to provide this, as well as the board of review, whether we agree with it or not. I happen to disagree. I'll just put that out there because I do believe, based upon the state property classification document, which I reviewed, these grow operations that appear grow operations, and my assessment of that document is that these are indeed agricultural properties and should be classified as such. But so even though I disagree with that determination, we do have an obligation to defend that position. So that's where we're at. Any other questions or thoughts at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grant. All right, motion or roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
I abstain.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. No public hearings scheduled for this evening. We have no unfinished business scheduled for this evening. We do have some new business to attend to, one of which is the designation of voting delegates for the Michigan Municipal League annual meeting. So we may proceed. Well, we don't necessarily know who we're going to appoint yet, so let's just have discussion at this time. Madam Clerk, can you report out on this item and what this entails?
So every year we appoint a person who votes on our behalf at the Michigan Municipal League, and then we post also an alternate in case that person does not make it. And it's usually somebody who's going to attend the conference.
Are you going to be attending the conference or the convention this year in October?
I do actually plan to attend, yes.
Okay. I do as well, but I know we always have you as at least as the backup or
Yes.
the alternate.
Yes.
So I presume you're still comfortable in serving in that capacity as alternate.
Yes.
Our city manager's left. I was going to ask him if he's anticipating being there as well.
He did indicate he was not going to be in attendance. That's what he told me just last week, yes.
Okay. Well, I plan on being. Who else, commissioners, plan on being at the MML convention in October?
Sure.
Commissioner St. Clair, Commissioner Ramsey, you plan on being there?
What's it going to be at?
It's going to be in Traverse City this year.
At the good hotel.
Maybe.
And next year it will be, in every presidential election, they have the convention at Mackinac Island. And then some great news is coming back to the city of Muskegon.
Yes,
We
it
did
is.
host it last year. It was the largest Michigan Municipal League convention in their history. And it's going to be returning to the city of Muskegon in 2026, I believe.
Yeah, it's coming back, yes.
Yes, I think it's 2026, maybe 2027. I think it's 2026. Or 7. I don't know, it's coming back in a few years.
I believe it's 2025.
That's
2025?
I think it's 2025 too.
2025.
But as soon as I
I
say
think that'd be
I'll
great
be
if it's
wrong.
2025. It'll still be in my term, so I love that. Commissioner Ramsey.
Mr. Mayor, don't we typically nominate both the mayor and then the city clerk to just become these primary and secondary voters?
traditionally, but I am certainly open if
I
another
would like
member
to
of the
make a
commission.
motion if it's appropriate at this time.
You make so too.
Good. I make the motion to appoint the mayor as the official representative and the alternate representative to be the city clerk, who will both be in attendance and to cast the vote of the municipality at the annual business meeting of the Michigan Municipal League Convention in October in Traverse City.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Vice Mayor German. Thank you. I would be happy to allow someone else to serve in that capacity, but I will do so, as directed by this commission. So thank you. Any questions or comments on this item? Nope. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Where did I go? There we go. Oh, yes. Item 10B, City ARPA Community Grant Proposals. The item that many people are here in attendance for, and we heard public comment on. So, commissioners, we did have this, a special meeting last Wednesday in the afternoon to hear from staff as well as from the committee that we tasked with review of the grants. And now it's back to the commission this evening for us to give formal consideration and vote on how we're going to be allocating these resources. But so that we can be brought up to speed, a lot of us have already heard the process where we're at. Folks at home that are tuning in right now may not be aware of the process that's unveiled up to now. So before we entertain any motions, can you just, Director Wills, can you just bring us up to speed and share with the commission and the community where we're at and how we got here?
Absolutely. Fortunately, the city of Muskegon was able to receive $22.8 million of federal ARPA dollars. The city commission decided to dedicate $1.6 million to a community grant program that was initiated earlier this year. And it was a wonderful process. We secured 4 residents that were part of a review committee, in addition to 2 representatives from the city, in a process that recommended a number of applications for your consideration. And so we were very intentional on including the community in this discussion process. And we had quite a bit of information that was available online for entities to apply, including small businesses, nonprofit organizations, and all neighborhood associations within the city of Muskegon. That could apply for funds in the range of $25,000 to $250,000. And so last week, we presented a slate of proposals that were recommended by the review committee. If the manager wants to make any comments, as we did maybe last week, about that particular part of the process, but
I'll let you after you're done with your part.
So, at your direction last week, there were 7 proposals that were recommended by the review committee that would receive less than 50% of their requested amount. And so, at your direction, through phone and email, we reached out to those 7 individuals beginning last Thursday. And those, I can just quickly go through the general responses that I received. Beginning with the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, they do not believe that awarding the $100,000 would not prevent them from moving forward. They would reprioritize aspects of their particular program and do believe that they could fund the project. You did hear earlier from the representative from the Jacksonville Neighborhood Association that they believe that the amount that is being allocated or recommended by the review committee would fall short, but we would continue to welcome remaining in partnership with them on their project and bringing other additional resources alongside them. So we really think that there's some good opportunities in that particular project. The Sheldon Park Neighborhood Association had similar comments that they would break apart some of the items in their initial list of budgeted items and do believe that they could continue the project with the $8,000 that the review committee would recommend for your consideration. The Boys and Girls Club also is in the process of the fundraising campaign and wanted to assure you that they remain confident in their ability to leverage additional dollars for their project. And then Kids Food Basket has similar comments that they also believe that they will continue to remain viable and have a sustainable project and be able to complete what they are seeking to do. And then final two are Samaritas. There were some gap funding that they had requested as part of the project that had been completed thus far, and so they are appreciative of what has been recommended for your consideration thus far and believe it will complete their project. And then finally, Open Gates of Grace Ministries, they also believe that their project can be sustainable with the dollars that have been recommended. I think the representative of their project made some comments to that effect last week. They do believe there's a number of key people that are part of their team in order to complete the project, and they have several options to complete the project through personal funding, mortgages, and business loans. So that process, per your direction, was conducted, and that's the feedback that I received.
Thank you, Director Wells. Did you have something to add, Mr. Manager, on the
process? So just for folks who are watching at home and maybe didn't see our meeting last week, the review process was made up of representatives from each of the four wards, as Director Wills noted, and myself and Sharonda Carson. We went through and rated reviewed each of the applications, and then we rated the ones that the committee thought were of the highest quality to move on for the rating purposes, which is where we came up with the 22. Each individual committee member rated the applications independently of one another, and then we came together and averaged those scores out based on the number of people who submitted the number of reviews from the committee. And so that's how we got that aggregate score. So that is each of the 6 members averaged out. So that's how we got to the recommendation that we came to.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioner Ramsey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Director Wills. I want to take a couple of seconds and I want to thank, support, and not only support, but celebrate the time that our neighbors put into this effort in reading and reviewing and really coming up with some wonderful opportunities for us to be better neighbors to our neighbors. Congratulations. And I want to continue to support the work that you've done because we asked you to do it. I also want to thank the 7 organizations that I griped loud enough about that got the support that I needed from staff to have there be some financial conversations around the acceptance of money like this that the representative from Jackson Hill spoke to so eloquently, and that we didn't want to put our neighbors in a position of financial liability and or risk because there wasn't enough money to complete a project. Now, I want to thank everybody for replying, and saying that, I want to remind the city manager and also Director Ekholm, who's not here, but also you, Director Wills, that now we're going to be entering into our second granting opportunity with our neighbors and other organizations in town through the home art dollars, that maybe it is time that we look at having someone on staff who is meant or tasked with to do this work, because as more of these people, more of these organizations apply for these opportunities, and we as city elected officials on staff are able to recognize the need, we should do more than just review and pass on. There should be assistance allowed for these individuals who we cannot help with dollars, but we can with technical assistance and or edification and process building, capacity building within grant applications. This is important work. I do this every day from 9 to 5 for a local organization, and so it's a lot of work for any agency or organization to put in a grant like this. It costs money because they could be serving our neighbors. So I would encourage you yet again, City Manager, to find someone to do this work for us, whether it's contract with the admin dollars from both of these programs or not, or whether it's intentional for someone who already works here and doesn't live off the side of their desk, because that will do nothing, Jonathan. And I want to invite you, Pete, as you offer these dollars to these award recipients, which I will completely support, that you have conversations with them again about they also have the choice to deny these dollars if they don't think that they can meet these requirements. So that way there's an honest interaction about it. Thank you again so eloquently, Jackson Hill, for bringing that to our attention. So that everybody has the opportunity to do nothing but win. And thank you, Pete, for all the hard work that you've done.
You're welcome. You do have 3 motions in front of you. I think they're structured, and maybe the council can describe a little bit. Based on the conflict of interest documentation that is currently being filed. And so I think we're going to exclude that 3rd motion until that process has been completed, but that's why you have 3 motions in front of you.
Yes. Was that, I did receive that letter. Thank you, Commissioner Gorman. I was remiss in not acknowledging my receipt of that letter. I did receive that. Thank you. Did that make it in our packet, or should I read that? Did it make it in our packet, or otherwise get published on our website? I'm going to read that then. Now let me find it. Just a moment. Here we go. All right. Dear Mayor Johnson, the City of Muskegon is considering awarding an ARPA community grant and entering into a contract with Pioneer Resources Incorporated, otherwise referred to as Pioneer, my former employer. The city will be using funds provided by the federal government through the American Rescue Plan Act federal stimulus. As a city commissioner for the City of Muskegon, the following letter is provided. It is my understanding that the city is considering awarding Pioneer $550,000, which will result in a contract between the city and Pioneer. The money will be used by Pioneer to provide a paved, accessible community walking path, which will allow residents to access wooded, hillside, unused green space. Pioneer intends to construct resting points, seating, and natural gardens along the walkway. I will receive no direct or indirect benefit from the city funding this program. I no longer have any involvement with Pioneer. As you are aware, I was employed until recently by Pioneer as the Director of Development, which focuses on raising funds for Pioneer. I was not involved in Pioneer's decision to apply for an ARPA community grant and did not assist in Pioneer's grant application. I've had no involvement or discussions either with City of Muskegon staff or Pioneer staff concerning this matter. So, thank you again for providing that letter, and if our legal counsel could provide some additional context, because you did provide a memo or opinion to the City Commission on this matter, which had indicated while there is no technical conflict of interest by virtue of Commissioner Gorman's not being employed by Pioneer, there could be the perception of a conflict, and as such, we're going to treat it as a real conflict for the purposes of administering this grant, including notifying the U.S. Treasury Department, the state, and then we have to adhere to our own city charter on this matter. Okay.
The issue as to whether there's a conflict and how to waive it is different under the city charter and is different under state law. Likewise, the ARPA requirements have a Department of Treasury notification process. Their standards for waiver are somewhat ambiguous, and frankly, given that the remedy is repay the money to Department of Treasury, that seemed an unwise decision. In our assessment, it was better to go through the process. It's easy to waive the conflict under the city charter. It's easy to waive it under state law. It will require some supermajority votes. It will require some notice by the clerk's office. But we've done these before, multiple times. It's not an unusual event. The difference here is we're also going to need Department of Treasury to weigh in. So whether this comes back to you in 2 weeks and you take action on the Pioneer research, you can't do it tonight. I mean, there has to be 7 days notice between disclosure of the letter, which probably occurred just now. And so you're looking at some future. Whether it comes back in the next city commission meeting and approval or rejection subject to Department of Treasury's response is fine. If alternatively you want to wait for Department of Treasury to respond and then bring it back, I don't have a preference. I think that's more for Director Wills and this body to decide that.
Commissioner Ramsey?
I have a motion. I motion to approve the list of eligible grant proposals for funding under the City ARPA Grant Community Grant Program as presented to the City Commission, excluding the application from Pioneer Resources. That's the right one I'm supposed to pick, eh, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Your choice. But
Well, because I can't pick the third one.
Correct.
So then yes.
Okay. That is the motion on the floor.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to approve the list of eligible grant proposals for funding under the City ARPA Community Grant Program as presented to the City Commission, excluding the application from Pioneer Resources. Commissioner Ramsey.
No, I want to thank you, John, for that insight regarding Commissioner Gorman and the application for Pioneer Resources. I invite anyone who has questions about that to reach out to Pioneer Resources and ask them about this amazing opportunity so that when it comes back to us, you will know exactly what we're talking about if these applications are not available online. And otherwise, I'm just going to say again, thank you, Pete, to you and every neighbor that was a part of this process and to all of the agencies that applied. I wish we had all the money in the world that we could give to you, but here we are. So thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. As the supporter of the motion, Commissioner St. Clair, do you have anything to ask or add at this time?
I would just echo what Commissioner Ramsey said. I'm really grateful for the time that staff and our citizen committee put into this. I know it was no small task, and it's a lot of pressure to make these decisions, and there's no way to make everyone happy. And you know, I really appreciate the hard work and results that have been put together. I think it was a really thoughtful process, and that's evident in the selection that has been provided to us. As Commissioner Ramsey said, I wish we had all of the money to give everybody all of the things, because I don't think there were any that were presented that are not worthy. I would also echo what Commissioner Ramsey said on there are a lot of resources that have been available, and there are a lot of resources that are newly available that I think we could really benefit our community by helping them navigate that. It's a tremendous amount of work to find those dollars, and if you happen to have a full-time fund developer, you still have a hard time finding those dollars, and those that don't have that, it's needle in a haystack work trying to find that. So I think that's one thing that I would really like to see the city lean into, supporting the community. You know, there's been a tremendous amount of federal money that has come down recently for weatherization and infrastructure that could help a lot of these projects if we had a little bit of help for people to navigate that. So I would really like to see us find a way to do that. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. Commissioners, any other? Vice Mayor German.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Director Willis, you and your staff, I support your efforts and what you guys have done to go through this process, and also the committee that was put together. I believe this conversation came about when we talked about distributing ARPA dollars. I brought this up in a meeting because this was something that I've seen in other states where they were giving funding from the ARPA grant to organizations, nonprofits, and startup businesses to help them and those people that were underserved hit the hardest. And specifically, when we had these discussions, I basically stressed the concerns that let it be for those hardest hit and that's really need and underserved communities, and business that don't have a national brand, or, you know, making it fair and equitable. And looking at this list, $1.6 million. And there's other entities or groups here that could have gotten at least $25,000 to help that organization start up. We've done it before. I've seen it in other cities, and it's a shame and a pity, you know. And as I stressed in our last meeting, you know, groups that we gave $1 million to coming back to this commission and asking for more money. I mean, I support that group, and I voted to, I'll give the Boys and Girls Club, I'll call that out, $1 million. And I have no regrets of that. But to come back and ask for more money, to me, I just think it's a disservice, you know, and not just as, I would say, ethical. You know, I'm really disappointed in that. And that takes away from other startup organizations. So I think from an equity standpoint, this approach could have been considered a little bit better, where almost every entity or group that wanted and proposed a grant could have gotten more money. We talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talking about being included, and here it is right here. The proof is right here. You know, how can we move forward if we're not trying to be inclusive by monetary services? It's always the well-established businesses, the partnerships, and I've been on this commission 12 years, and I've seen it all. And not to take anything away from these well-established organizations, but we have people here in this community that are invested taxpayers who are starting exactly where a lot of these well-established businesses are at right now today. And they were given an opportunity and a chance. And that's all I say. When we do these type of things, we give everybody an equitable and a fair chance to participate and be part of this community. And I just don't see that here in this. And I'm not saying that I'm not pointing at you, Director Willis, or anything like that, but this, to me, just doesn't reflect a holistic approach of just being equitable when it comes to giving these groups funding, and others are just excluded. For whatever reason that boards made those decisions, you have your own reasons, but when it looks like what we see here, it is what it is.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Commissioners, any other questions or comments at this time? No. All right, I will kind of echo what some of my other fellow commissioners have said in terms of thanks and appreciation to the committee and to our staff for working through this process, as well as to all of the applicants for this. Every organization that's applied is very worthwhile and does good for our community, and so I'm incredibly grateful for the work that each organization and applicant does on behalf of our neighbors and for our neighbors. I will say that the commission established this process in accordance with the federal law and the Treasury's final rule on how these dollars can be used. The commission established this process. We were intentional in creating a process that gave everyone an equal opportunity to apply for this money with the parameters that were set forward by both the federal government as well as the city commission. And the city commission decided to establish a committee, none of which we sat on, none of the commissioners. It was intentional to depoliticize that process. We were intentionally including representation from each ward across our city, as well as having our city manager and our Director of Community Neighborhood Services, Sharonda Carson, on that. And then we invited the United Way and the Community Foundation to not serve in a voting capacity or decision-making capacity, but in a way to help guide us and help inform the process, since they were very well versed in writing grant distribution and the work that they do. But another benefit or value that I saw by including United Way and the Community Foundation for Muskegon County was perhaps an opportunity for them to connect applicants to additional resources if they were not to be funded through this process or were not to be funded to the extent that they wish to be funded through this process, that those organizations could be able to connect them to additional resources. And I think that that onus is on us as well, not just the Community Foundation and United Way, to make those connections. There are, as has been mentioned by other commissioners this evening, there are other resources out there that are available to the federal government, to the state government, that we maybe not have discretion on how it allocates. However, we can get these applicants connected to those opportunities so they can pursue that money independently and bring that home to our community and service to our community. And so given the process that was established, that was made available equitably to our community, and having no compelling reason to see to deviate from our committee's recommendations, a volunteer committee of citizens across our city who have spent many hours reviewing all of these applications, and like as the city manager said, scoring them independently and bringing forward that aggregate for further review and bringing it to us. One thing that I would like to share before we're moving on to a vote is that more dollars may become available that we do have discretion over. We have allocated our money, and a lot of it has been spent. Not all of it has been spent. Some projects or initiatives in which we have allocated this to may not end up needing the full amount that we allocated it, and so there could be freed up resources. And we're going to be knowing that as time goes on, and we'll have an opportunity to reorient or reallocate those resources that are freed up. We don't have a firm dollar amount right now of what already is available, but our team is tracking that, and they're going to be reporting back to the commission when those, as we have a firmer idea of the resources that are available. So there can be additional opportunities for this commission to decide how they want to allocate those resources. It could be, tasking the committee that we had done originally for the first review to say, hey, now look at, we've got an extra $200,000. How would you like to allocate it? It could be the commission deciding independently, we've already put enough work on them, now let us, knowing everything that we know, how do we allocate that extra money that comes about? But there are those opportunities. There was talk of, so there'll be those opportunities as those resources potentially become available to reallocate. So something to keep in mind in that regard. Before we go to vote, can we get the list of, I think you have something to ask or add, Commissioner Hood, before we go to vote, and I'll call on you just a moment, Commissioner Hood, but can we get the list of all of the spreadsheet on the screen so people see what the funding allocations, the requests and allocations are, so people know who these dollars are going to? And while that's happening, Commissioner Hood.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, not saying anything was wrong with the process, because it seemed like it was serving what it was supposed to do. But I think on some of the applications, or some of the people that didn't get it, because we had some really great organizations that was out there, that's been out there throughout the years, helping out in the community, helping out in crisis, going out talking to our youth, that didn't quite make the cut. But I think if it's a application issue where maybe the application wasn't filled out full enough, I think someone needs to take the time and explain that to them, so the next time when they apply, then they can get, that won't leave them out. And that extra money that we have that may be allocated later on, hopefully some of those organizations will get some of that. So that's all I want to say.
Indeed. Thank you, Commissioner Hood. All right, any final thoughts or questions before we go to vote? All right. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
No.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. So, that completes our new business for this evening. Commissioners, are there any other business that you wish to address this evening at this time? All right. Seeing none, then we move on to public comment. General public comment. So we'll get the number on the screen for people to phone in. But in the meantime, we open it up to the audience. I have one form for public comment at this time. There's still time to submit forms to speak during public comment. But first up, we have Miss Maria McIntosh joining us from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Welcome back, Miss Maria.
Thank you. So I want to be clear. First, I'm not joining right now from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Before, when I spoke, that was on behalf of Jackson Hill Neighborhood Association. But right now, I'm speaking on behalf of Threads. So I really want to address the process for the ARPA dollars. I had addressed this originally, so I'm going to go back around and address it again. This was a one-time shot. A one-time shot. You can say, with that old adage that they have, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. You had an opportunity to do what was right. $1.6 million is 7% of $22 million. $10 million of that automatically went to the city for whatever programming they needed it for. It was allotted according to that ARPA grant requirements or what they could have used it for. But that left an additional $12 million for the city to do right. And I see oftentimes when I come up here and speak, you see the rolling of the eyes and you see the huffing and the puffing. But I represent or work with a community that's underrepresented. And many of the people and organizations that receive this money, they had opportunities in other areas to receive money. There was the PPP money, there was SARA money, there was many other monies allocated through programs through MISHTA, through every other state department where other people got money from. This money, the reason why it was such a huge, broad latitude is because of the clear separation between federal, state, and what's local. So if they gave you such a latitude and said, oh, you don't have to be a 501c3, oh, you don't have to have all these extra criteria, why would the people who sit in this room, who say they represent the people in our communities, not do that and not honor it? Many of you came to our communities and said you would do that, and you dropped the ball. This money, it is what it is. Most of this money went to programming or is allocated towards programming that was already a city idea several years ago. This money should have been in the hands of community members that needed it, for organizations that didn't necessarily need a 501c to run them. And the fact that that wasn't done, you did the community in its entirety a disservice. 7%. And less than 50% of that 7% went to the community.
Thank you, Ms. Maria. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time? We don't have any other forms?
No, Mayor.
Is anyone on the line?
No, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Is Deborah still here? Deborah Sunday Sweet? Okay. Because just wondering, maybe Director Gant, I know that you were tracking some of the finances, and we wanted to make sure that that's all on the website and online, like how everything has been allocated, how everything's been spent, what is committed, not committed. I don't know if you can speak to that and where that can be found. And I don't know if we have a project dashboard for...
I don't know if we have one right now. We internally have been tracking it, Pete and I, and we could probably put something out there, what has been allocated so far or what the commission has voted on. We can put something out there like that, and what we have allocated and what we spent so far.
Okay.
I could work on that.
Yeah, maybe we could have on the website to track how we've allocated, how we've spent it, and what remains.
Yes, I could do that.
As well. Okay, excellent. Thank you. And I do believe that we within the county of Muskegon, I don't know outside of the county of Muskegon, but within the county of Muskegon, of all the municipalities that received ARPA funds, we are the only municipality that created a community ARPA grant program that invited our nonprofits and our community members and small businesses to apply and be able to access those dollars. So we do stand separate from the other ARPA receiving municipalities within Muskegon County at the very least. Is there anyone that has phoned in?
No, Mayor.
Okay.
No.
If there's last call for public comment.
Do you have one announcement?
Oh, yes.
Just that tomorrow is election day. So-
Should have acknowledged that when we acknowledged our new elections coordinator and how timely that is that she came online. But yes, we have an election tomorrow. Speak on that.
Yes. So anybody that normally votes at Smith Ryerson or here at City Hall, or anybody who votes on the west side of the city, you have an election tomorrow. So you'll notice this is a little unusual. We do not have an election throughout the entire city, only half of our city. So if you vote in any of those areas, in Bluffton, in Glenside area, in Lakeside, at Smith Ryerson, or at City Hall, you do have an election tomorrow. We encourage you to be there from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. To go there or to come to City Hall, and we can assist you. If you wonder if you have a polling place tomorrow, please call our office at 724-6705. We'll be more than happy to help you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that heads up and announcement for tomorrow. And thank you for you and your staff for being here extra hours this past Friday and Saturday to accommodate and help people with the voting process. All right, if there's nothing else.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. All right, we got a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Hood, or maybe resoundingly everybody. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you. Take care. Be well.
Good night.
You too.